Cool. Okay, so why don't we just start by introducing yourself and explaining your role at Limpid Protocol?
Excellent. Yeah, and thanks for having us here. Appreciate getting a chance to talk to you guys. I'm Rocket. I'm the community leader from over in Limpid. We started out as a mod there, and we've just been helping to kind of keep the community engaged and spread the word now with some of these AMAs. I'm not actually on the core team itself, so some of the questions and answers, that information that I'll have access to, is not going to be quite the same as if you're talking to a core team member. But I will do my best to answer any and all questions that we do get today. And then if there's anything that I'm not able to, we will get more information and pass it back to you.
Yeah, it's all good. No worries. Yeah, it's a pretty informal conversation. So, yeah, why don't you just start by telling us a bit more about Limpid Protocol and what it is you guys are doing?
Excellent. So the origin of Limpid was really from a couple of things. The founders had worked in several different protocols and even coded up quite a few of them. And if you guys have been in DeFi for a little bit, you've probably seen the various seasons of different projects. For a while it was nodes and GameFi and rebasing. There's all these different protocols out there. And so having Ray has coded a lot of these projects and seen some of the best and even the ugly side of all of them, and wanted to build something that was truly sustainable, as well as just not copy yet another main function that's already out there. So this is where the whole manage to earn idea was kind of born. He had some extensive experience with a successful node protocol, but then saw the sustainability challenges that come up there, and as well as the GameFi aspect. Some of them are a little bit too much of a money grab, if you will. Sometimes you'll get into a GameFi one and you'll kind of find that you got to put more into it than you get out of it. And so, trying to solve all those problems in one, this idea of manage to earn protocol came about. And the other aspect of that is being very stable, right? We don't want to get involved in something and then your token price just falls over time to the point where it's no longer valuable for the investors. And so all those aspects are what really drove the initial creation of the protocol and even some of the various gameplay elements. So if you were to jump into the game right now, what you would find is that you can, purchase one of three different kinds of pills or NFTs. And then, from there, you have to manage them and interact with them to keep them healthy. They've all got a 90-day lifespan to them. And in that time frame, you need to, form your approach, and you can use various different boosts and repairs to help produce the most amount of rewards in that 90-day time frame. So the boosts will, produce extra rewards during that time frame, and the repairs keep it healthy. So you've got to manage both of those, and they're each on a timer, so that you can get the optimal rewards. Generally speaking, the more you interact, the more rewards you get out of it. And but it's also so it's not entirely passive, but it's also not something you have to play all day every day. It's really designed to be check in for 15 minutes every couple of days, and you can do quite well. So that's the kind of overarching idea behind it. It's kind of meant to be a bit of a game, but also a little bit of the passive income while being sustainable. A few of those things that I mentioned are key aspects of the sustainability, right? We didn't want to have an NFT that just produces income forever and pushes down the price, and because we really wanted investors that didn't show up right at the launch or didn't make it to the whitelist to be able to have the same opportunity to invest and make the same returns as if you started day one or day 100. So that's one of the reasons for like the pills expiring. They're not infinite, but in that time frame, you can get a nice return. And so whether you want to just keep those rewards or compound them into your next round of pills, you can do either. And it's very flexible, so you can start a new new NFT anytime you want to, and then just manage it from there.
Cool. Yeah, it seems pretty cool. I really like the way you've incorporated some of the sort of GameFi elements into the sort of, I suppose, the node problem of trying to make the project sustainable. It's really cool. So, I guess your returns can vary quite significantly depending on how you sort of apply your different sort of GameFi functions, your repair and your boost function to your what are you calling? You're not calling them nodes. You just calling them pills or
Yeah, your pills, your NFTs. Yeah, we're not really going with the node terminology just because we're trying to not have the expectation of, if you've bought a node in the past, right, you have that expectation of like, hey, I don't need to touch this and it produces, which is awesome. And if you can, figure out sustainability with that, like I saw some of the sustainability factors that you guys have built in, which I think are just incredible. Then fantastic. But this is a little bit different, so we didn't want to, have an investor buy it and then come back 3 months later and then be like, why didn't I make my returns or anything like that? We just wanted to kind of break away from that language a little bit. Yes, and so to your original question, then the rewards themselves will vary depending on how much you interact. Originally, the thought was, to to make it pretty drastic where, if you bought it and then left it alone, it would eventually decay down and, you'd kind of miss out on your rewards. But we didn't want anybody to get too burned, especially life happens, right?
yeah.
So
Sure.
right now, I would say, yeah, you don't want to do that to anybody. But we do want to incentivize playing. So we've kind of got this range now where if you were to just worst case, right? Let's say you bought a pill and then you lost internet connectivity for the next 90 days and you never messed with it, you'd still have 45% of your original investment back, right? You would lose some money, but you'd at least have 45% of the original, as opposed to just losing everything. Now, if you interact with it and you kind of stay on top of it, you can get at least 140% of your initial investment in that 90-day window. So that's kind of the range of depending on where you want to interact with it. For the folks that are here and there, they check in every week or two, they're probably like 110%, somewhere around there. And then the folks that are on top of it, they've been seeing some really healthy returns, and some folks are even saying that they're going to beat that mark. And so it'll be really interesting to see when our 90 days hits what everybody has actually accumulated.
That's kind of cool. I like that. I mean, you don't even know yourself what what the maximum someone's going to be able to achieve is. It shows that you've really got to sort of figure out your protocol and figure out the best time to do things and apply certain things. You've really got that sort of GameFi element built into the protocol. It's kind of cool.
It really does, and it's funny to watch the chats, and see some people are like, "Oh, I repair mine an hour beforehand just to be safe," and others are like, "No, I wait till the last 10 seconds," And so you get a lot of variety, and which is exactly, what we hoped for, is that everybody would play the game the way they like to and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, for anyone listening who hasn't invested, what would the sort of steps be, I guess, to getting started with a pill or a node or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty straightforward, very similar to a lot of other yield-bearing NFTs or nodes, kind of a purchase that you'd make in the past. You'd go to the Limpid site. There you can exchange for the Limpid tokens, and then purchase either like the base blue pill or the medium green pill or the big legendary red pill, depending on the investment level you want to jump in at. And so from there, you pick your pill. I definitely always recommend read everything ahead of time first, right? Just so you know what you're getting into.
Sure.
Of course, the some of the larger investments with the tiered ones, can produce larger returns, but you want to know exactly where your benefits are going to lie and how much you're going to be able to interact with it. And so take a look at those reward cycles, the repair cycles, and the boost cycles to see, what fits best for you. We always recommend that, nothing's financial advice here, but we always recommend that if you're going to play and you're going to, play to its full potential, that you leverage all of the tools at your disposal on both the repair and boost cycle. But if you go to the site and jump in there and find that you want to give it a try, you just swap over for the LMP token, pick the pill that you want to do, and then you can start boosting. You won't need to repair for the first few days, right? So it's healthy for the first couple days. But you will want to keep an eye on that because I think it's about a 3-day and before you need to interact with it that way and start, keeping it healthy. A few tips from that standpoint for anybody brand new is that you'll definitely want to, claim or boost or repair before any timers run out. Because when the timers run out, that decay starts, or the pill starts losing a little bit of health. That will immediately start impacting any accumulated rewards. So you want to grab them before then, or if you reboost it, it'll automatically claim the remainder of the rewards that you had, things like that. So just a tip to stay on top of it.
Yeah, so you're buying the pill in LMP, which is your native token. It also pays out in LMP, is that right?
Yes, and then we have a liquidity manager that keeps the price stable, so that in between a pretty specified range between that 250 275 range, so that the returns are always consistent and expected.
Yeah, definitely worth noting that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of projects are going that route recently, ourselves included. We've recently introduced the liquidity managers, working really well.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's really cool as well. Okay, so in addition to that, you're also managing a treasury as well. Is that right?
Yes. So let me bring that up. There's the treasury. There's also, of course, the pool for the liquidity manager that it uses to purchase and or sell the tokens. The treasury is part of the longer term plan for the project as well. There's a couple of things that we can dive even more into. I know some of the questions are even around that, but the when we developed the liquidity management system, one of the aspects of that was to be able to sell the technology to anyone who didn't perhaps want to develop their own, or wanted to have a very easy plug and play experience for a liquidity manager. And so we designed it in a way where it's very easy to plug in. I don't think it even requires our developers to do anything. It's really a matter of just give you the tool itself, tell you where the inputs are, and plug it into most other projects just kind of right away. So we've talked to a bunch of different projects about how they can integrate it and quickly and very affordably as well. The good thing about that is that it is another revenue stream that will help fund the liquidity pool in the long run, so that as the token progresses and as rewards are paid out, there's an actual sustainable model to keep restocking the liquidity manager to maintain that stability. And then that in conjunction with the treasury will be used for additional investments, none that are specifically announced yet in terms of the investments, but other investments to help prolong the sustainability of the project. And I think we'll be having some additional upcoming announcements about partners. We've already launched one of our partners with the liquidity manager recently, so it's a nice little development and process here. We're pretty new. I think you may have seen we launched the 16th of last month, so it's coming along.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to ourselves, where you're sort of looking to, develop other projects with your treasury to support your existing holders. I think that's really cool addition as well to the whole system.
Yeah, it really needs to have that long-term view, right? Because it's easy to throw something out there, but if you really want it to be around longer than a couple of months, as you guys know well, I took a look at your roadmap and some of the things you guys are working on, and it's great to see some real innovation happening. And it's really important because at the end of the day, You want it to be around a long time. You want the investors to really benefit in the long run, no matter when they join. So
Yeah, sure. And I've noticed as well, it's really cool that your dashboard is effectively its own DEX right now. So are you thinking of sort of expanding that element of your
yeah,
project and offering it out to other token pairings?
yeah, that's a great observation. So we do have our own decks for swapping into the program, and we've definitely got that option for adding more pairing, especially if a company or a project wants to be on the decks, use the liquidity manager, just kind of the whole bundle all in one to make it easy. It'd be very easy to bring those in. Um, the nice thing about the decks having our own, even without any other projects on there, of course, is that any of the DEX fees that could have been, or that would have been going to something like PancakeSwap or another DEX like that, can now be, just fed right back into the protocol itself for sustainability as opposed to, feeding another DEX. So that's a really nice bonus there. And then if we were to, because I think there's definitely a consideration for that. If we were to bring on additional partners or users of that DEX, any of those minute swap fees would end up, additionally feeding the protocol. So it could be another revenue stream there, as well as just make it super easy for partners to get up and going.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Can you talk a little bit about just flicking through your white paper? That's all about the scarcity bonus. So if you're applying different boosts that have got the same scarcity, the repair or boost, then you have a bonus on top of that. How's that work?
Yeah, so it kind of is lined up with the colors, and I don't have the numbers memorized off the top of my head, but essentially on the repair side, let's say you have a legendary red pill, right, and then you go for a legendary repair, in this case, like the repair kit, it actually gives you a little bit of an extra amount of time on that repair. So it kind of gives you even longer before you have to repair again. And it's kind of that small extra tail on that time frame. But if you're managing down to the minutes, right, you start to care about those,
Yeah.
and so you can kind of squeeze that little bit of extra ROI out of it. Similarly, on the boost side, right, if you're matching up kind of the legendary pills and legendary boosts, then you get just that little bit of extra boost out of it, and can get that additional ROI. So that's another option, kind of another tool that you can use. If you're like many of us, you probably have your spreadsheet out already, and you're calculating, when do I need to boost and repair? What's the best strategy? So those are just one more little aspect of the game that you can use to your advantage.
So as a general rule, then you always want to sort of try and match the color of the pill with the color of the boost or repair. Then.
Well, it's interesting. I think that's a great approach, but there's also definitely a benefit towards the amount of activity you're willing to put in. So if you look at some of the prices, you'll notice that the highest returns, the price of them is lower than some of the others, but the duration is much shorter. So you might have to interact with your pill every 2 days instead of every 6 days, for example, or every 3 days instead of a week or something like that. So it kind of incentivizes like regular active gameplay. So that's definitely a balance between, do I try to, align sort of the colors and legendary aspects of them, or do I, try to get into, a particular pill type and then, go for all of the highly interactive sort of repairs and boosts to keep it producing as highly as possible. So that's definitely not like a clear cut and dry one or the other.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about previously with the sort of GameFi element. It's really interesting that there's lots of ways to get from A to B effectively, isn't it? And you don't know which one's going to be the most efficient and the most profitable. So you just got to sort of try out some different methods and see how they work out.
Yeah, that's right.
That's cool. Okay, shall we let's have a look at some of the questions from the community then. I know that there was a fair few in there when I had a look earlier, so let's start working our way through some of these. Okay, so the first question then, if a project were to copy Limpid's entire platform and technology for development, what would Limpid do and how would Limpid solve it?
That's a great question, right? Because I think in the DeFi space, this happens a lot anyway, right? There's a lot of forks,
Sure.
and I don't think we're too concerned about that because in the end, the DeFi space is growing, but it's got so much potential to grow. We actually, very intentionally wanted to create a stable project that could be copied or could be partnered and leveraged. That's why we're making the LMS technology available to others, because in the end, we want everyone to win. And in reality, as DeFi grows over the coming years, because we have an amazingly small percentage, and I'm not sure which is the right statistic, but it's a very, very small percentage of people actually in DeFi as opposed to the rest of the folks in the world. So as more successful projects are there with sustainable yet attractive revenue, I think it'll be a rising tide that kind of raises all ships. And so, there's definitely you can copy the code, right? You could go in and
Yeah.
fork it and do something. But in the end, you can't copy the team necessarily, right? So there's ideas and innovative things that we're gonna, go be building, and they're gonna come out in the future. If you peeked at the roadmap, there's some stuff that's just hinted at. It's really nothing public yet. But the creators of Limpid have got a track record of building some pretty fun and wild stuff in the past. So um, I think it's more about constantly innovating and staying ahead, because if you don't do that, well then somebody's going to come up with something better anyway. So regardless of whether they take the code or not.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I mean, it's anyone can come along and copy, but it's the creativity that matters, and the people who are copying aren't the ones that are creative ultimately, so they're not the ones that are going to survive. So that's a great answer.
Right, exactly.
So, what is the utility of the LMP token? Will any of the revenue earned by the protocol be accrued to the LMP token?
Let's see. So great question. Yeah. So right now, the main utilities then are of course buying the initial NFT and then buying boosts, buying repairs, right? So those are all things that you can use it for. There's in the roadmap, I don't have a lot of information on that at the moment, but there are some additional GameFi aspects that I know that they want to be working on. So I think there will be some additional utility coming through that. In terms of the revenue earned, so one of the things, I think I'm answering this correctly in terms of what they're asking about the question, but one of the main aspects of that DEX and LMS is that the revenue that comes from selling the LMS technology and kind of that protocol to protocol type of sale will come back to the liquidity manager pool, which directly helps keep that LMP token at the value range that it's designed to be at. So that's one aspect that is really key, right? Because now we've got external revenue sources, and we're not just relying on this kind of Ponzi or first in first out kind of a method to keep good value for the token.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean it's early days with regards to utility, isn't it? It's you guys are barely a month old at this point, so I guess there's plenty of room in the roadmap for additional utility down the line.
Yep, and I know they've even been looking at some additional types of NFTs potentially, and so I think there will be some more interesting things coming in the months ahead, especially with the pace at which things tend to get developed and launched. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens even before the end of this year.
Oh yeah, I mean so much can happen in a DeFi project in that space of time. Yeah, I imagine you guys are going to be in a completely different place by the end of this year. You'll have a lot more going on, I'd think.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, do you have tutorial videos so we can get to know your project more clearly, or do you have a YouTube channel that you could share with us?
Great question. Yes, so we've had a couple of creators that have produced a few videos of how to play. There's one that we've pinned in our Discord right now in English as well as Japanese. Actually, we've had a large contingent of Japanese community join and really enjoying the whole protocol, very active. And so we've got some creators on both sides that have jumped in
That's
and
cool.
made some videos that you can see it directly from a creator point of view, which personally I really like. I love when the protocols put them out, but it's also nice when a user who kind of comes in cold figures it out and puts it out there. So we've got those available, nice walkthroughs. And I know that we have a goal of continuing to add more content like that in the future.
Awesome. Okay, so you could certainly succeed by onboarding established crypto gamers, but to take this to the next level, you'd certainly want to attract the non-gamers. What are your plans in that regard?
Yeah, great question. So I think the initial does really lend itself a little bit towards that, GameFi type of mindset. Um, Adding that stability aspect right now, you start to get looks from investors where they may be willing to engage, they may be willing to go beyond just a passive kind of play, and so having both of those and this roadmap, right, that we've talked about in the sustainability, we thought through from more than just building a protocol. We thought through the how do we develop technology that's valuable to others and continue to have that sustainable rewards. I think that element starts to get the attention of other investors that maybe don't come from the GameFi side, right? Perhaps they came more from the NFT side or more from the passive income or farming. And so as we continue to add other capabilities, other partners, I think that will start to attract another type of investor. We also, we didn't do massive marketing pushes on any of this yet, right? We're even now a couple weeks in, and we're just starting to do the AMA circuit, talking to other protocols and sharing what we're doing, because we really were intent on having that kind of proof case, if you will, of now we've got some very stable income that's being produced for the last 3.5 weeks here. So I think that as well, just start when people start to see that consistent stability and we start talking about it, more people know about it. I think that'll start to bring in the other investor groups.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Okay, we got a couple of questions with regards to how you start the game, etc. I feel like we covered that already, so I'm going to skip on. Can you provide some progress on your roadmap and what are your aims in the next 2 years? Where will Limpid Protocol be after 2 or 5 years, according to your roadmap?
Yeah. So the great news about that is, if we're successful in continuing to build partnerships, I would think that Limpid will continue to just be producing great rewards very sustainably, right? If we hit a year of consistent rewards, I mean that's going to be a huge landmark, and then beyond there, right? I'd say 2 years in DeFi is like probably like an eternity, but
Yeah,
the goal from the beginning is definitely to be able to do that. And so if you take a look at the roadmap, you'll see a couple of things that might catch your eye, like the new NFTs and support a creator program, the DEX partnerships, which we've kind of hinted at already. So you can see that out toward Q4, they're already thinking in that direction, as well as some new GameFi features. So not letting our GameFi crowd get bored, but keeping some new aspects to it, as well as something that's called Limpid Studio, which really hasn't been talked a lot about yet, but I think it's going to open up. Frankly, I don't even 100% know all they're thinking on the Limpid Studio side, but I think it's definitely going to open the door to a lot of interesting potential partnerships and developments, new things that go beyond the initial protocol, but that will likely feed the original protocol.
yeah, sure. Um, okay, the next one then. Did you consider community feedback or requests during the creation of your product in order to expand on fresh ideas? Many projects fail because the target audience and clients are not understood. So I'd like to know who your ideal consumer is for your product.
Great
They're
question.
really throwing
So,
out some hard
uh,
questions today, aren't they?
yeah, I love it. It's great. It's not like, I mean, you get some of those like, expected questions. It's fine, softballs is okay, but these are great. I really like it when people are thinking through and, asking stuff because it just always makes you better and sharper. So this is really good. So in terms of the feedback, I'll address kind of hopefully all of these in one go here. I mentioned some of the previous projects that the founders have been involved in, and so I've been kind of following them and their evolution of what they worked on. And for a little while, Frey had something called Frey's Labs. I think he still uses those here and there, but he was doing some various tests to see like, hey, what do people like? What are they enjoying? And so ran some just really wild off the wall ideas that we're able to test out and get little pieces and parts of ideas together. I think a lot of interesting community and ideas that came out of that. Some feedback of what was interesting, what wasn't, as well as once we started, into the project, right, a lot of people were talking and asking questions, and I know that I know some of that got built into the program as it came together. And then even within the first week of it launching, there was already an update to some of the contracts based on some additional player feedback. And then as well as on the UI side, right, just continuing to constantly improve that and make it easier to use. So I would say that has been very core to a lot of what the protocol has done, and kind of taking a lot of macro feedback and micro feedback in terms of the scale of how's the whole DeFi space feeling about things like nodes or GameFi or any of these other types of protocols, as well as very specifics like what kind of games are people actually engaging with? Are we or do they like these aspects? Are they having fun with it? So I think those came together, and with that, to answer the question about sort of the ideal consumer is, I think it is that individual, because we're kind of crafting a new area, right? You're not 100%, like I said earlier, we're not really. I don't want to tell anybody we're passive because we don't want you to throw money in and walk away and come back later and find out you're not ahead. But we're also not GameFi to the extent that you have to play every day or every 30 minutes, and we're definitely not here for a cash grab. So we're definitely trying to build up that new audience that is looking for something stable and dependable, but that is a little more engaging than just parking your money and checking it every once in a while. Nothing wrong with those. I think we've all got several in our portfolio, and those are nice to
Yeah.
have. But we're definitely trying to build out that new space that we saw of keeping an engaged community, keeping people interacting with the protocol.
Yeah, that's really cool. There's this is a bit of a weird question. I'm not sure how you're going to answer it, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to ask it. Um, reading through your managed to earn info gives me flashbacks to the days when everyone had a Tamagotchi. Was this an intentional feel, or is it just me?
Oh, that's awesome. I actually would have to go ask Frey how much influence that had. It's funny because the Tamagotchis come up like twice in a week, only in like a different discussion.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, it's just it's like flashbacks. It's pretty funny. So I don't know that it was like a direct inspiration, but I do know that there is that like simple kind of interact to get sort of to elicit the response you want, right? So there definitely is a little bit of that aspect to it when you really step back and think about it. Um, and it'll probably really start to reveal some of the initial inspiration as they add more GameFi features. So if you start, if this starts looking more and more like Tamagotchi, we'll have our answer for sure. But
Come to think of it, a Tamagotchi DeFi project is actually a pretty cool idea. So thanks for the idea, JC42. 10% royalties to that man.
that's right.
Okay, so
You
for
heard it here first.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So for Q4, can you provide any teasers for the upcoming new GameFi features? And what is Limpid Studio?
Ooh, these are answers I want to know myself.
Okay,
to
okay.
be uh, to be totally honest, and unfortunately, probably disappointing to the question. Those are great questions because we The two founders, Frey and Jan, are really the only ones with those insights right now, and haven't been shared with the team. Otherwise, I might be tempted to leak them out there, but don't have them, unfortunately.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. That's fine. Why did you choose to go with Binance Smart Chain over sort of any other platforms such as
Good
AVAX?
question. Yeah, definitely for the one, just the efficiency, ease of use. Certainly, it's really, really been good for gas fees, trying to keep them very low. Frey, when he was developing this, was very, very cognizant of the gas fees and their implications on the gameplay. So we had a discussion actually around the pricing of the pills and the pricing of the boosts and the even the range that we wanted to have for the token. And he spent a lot of time actually thinking through, how could we keep this interactive while not, destroying the returns with gas fees, given all the different aspects. So that was a major factor. It's also very it's been a pretty popular chain and easy to interact with. The nice thing is that Frey's got experience across developing across multiple different chains and has created the LMS to where it's agnostic. It can go any chain readily, which is really nice. But for this particular type of high interaction protocol, the BSC was a logical choice.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, gas fees would have to be the main consideration, I guess, for a project like yours when you're interacting with the contract rate on a regular basis. I mean, that's got to be the sort of number one consideration, and BSC is pretty good for that, isn't it? So I think it's a decent choice.
Yeah, we
Okay.
definitely didn't want you to lose half your rewards in
Yeah.
gas or anything like that.
Yeah.
Nobody'd
Exactly.
be happy.
Okay, so smart contracts are vulnerable to bugs, and even recently, three big new DeFi projects were victims of this, costing users funds. How efficient and secured is your smart contract, and did you ever audit it by an external party?
Another good question. I don't believe it has been officially audited externally. Our developers have definitely, and I agree, just right off the bat that, anytime you can have a second set of eyes. So our developers had a lot of experience in this area and, has produced several really good projects so far. I know that their plan has been to, have additional security measures and even audits. I think especially as the project really starts to gain some traction, I think just balancing that additionally with the cost of that upfront audit. So I think as time goes on, as those get released, we'll be able to share, any official news on audits or additional review of the code.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Right, we got a couple of questions here. I think you've already covered with about regards to attracting new users, etc. Right, here's one. So you plan to maintain the token from Rugging by implementing the service of a liquidity manager. I'm not sure that that's the purpose of the liquidity manager, but anyway, if there was a huge dump from token holders, does this mean the liquidity manager will just buy all just to hike the price?
Okay. Yeah, so right. So the liquidity manager isn't necessarily to prevent rugging, although if someone were a whale and they were able to acquire a very, very large amount of tokens, it certainly would function in that way to where it would buy back and put it back in range. We do have the only tax in the whole system is actually a sale tax. So that sale tax kind of really discourages anyone from buying and dumping or trying to manipulate the price because they really wouldn't be able to get enough of a movement on the swing in order to profit from that, and so it's very resistant to bots or dumping. But if someone were able to accumulate a large number of them over time and then dump them all at once, the liquidity manager would, in fact, buy it back to the price. Maybe not all in one buy, but it certainly would work it back into the range. so long as there was enough funds in the liquidity manager to do that. And so that's one of the aspects of the interaction and the sale of the liquidity manager technology and DEX fees that continue to support that, so that if there ever were a large sale, it can continue to manage the price.
Yeah, that's there's some more questions around the liquidity management, but I think you just answered those. Okay, what happens after 90 days? Do you lose any rewards if they are not claimed?
Great question. So after 90 days, the NFT will say decays fully. It's fully dead. You don't necessarily lose it out of your wallet or anything like that. So you still have it. It just doesn't produce anything, and you can't revive it in terms of its current state, right? So there's always the option to, you'll notice it doesn't go away necessarily. So there's always the option for this to have some function or value in the future. That's not necessarily been said by the team, but if you want to read between the lines and say, well, I still have it, so it might be useful for something. And then just to really reiterate on that point of, do you lose rewards? So you can actually start to lose rewards. I just want to be super clear with this up front. You can actually start to lose rewards as soon as the pill goes into the decay mode. And so that first decay mode after you buy the pill starts like 3 days after, I believe. And so as soon as it hits decay and starts decaying down towards its minimum, you'll start to lose rewards. So that's why I recommend, if you are going to be playing the game, to read up on it and know exactly when you want to apply your repairs and boosts, so that, ideally you never actually get into that mode and you're constantly healthy and producing the max amount of rewards. So just, yeah, to really drive home, don't buy a pill and leave it for 90 days. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's not the way to go. Okay, another guy asking when the official white paper is released, but that's already on your site, right? Yeah, so
Yes, that is out there.
yeah,
And
just
all the docs.
limpid-games.com. If you just go there, then you can access the white paper on there. Sorry to cut you off there. Yeah, a couple of questions that have already been answered on what blockchains LMP launched. That's Binance Smart Chain. What's the cost of each tier? So can you just run us through the different pills and how much they sort of cost when you convert them back to sort of fiat?
Yeah. So let's see if I can do my math in my head real quick here. But the range of the tokens in between 250 and 275. And so, if you're savvy, you're probably going to try to buy at the low end of that. And so the first blue pill is 0.8 LMP, and so that works out to be like right around $200. And that's kind of the entry level one. And then it's 2.5, so I believe, for the green pill. So I believe that's right around 700, 600 something dollars there on that one.
625, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the big one is 6 for the LMP for the red pill. So of course you're at like 1,500 at that point for the red pill. So that one's pretty significant, right, in terms of scale versus the blue.
Sure, yeah.
Now,
which one's the most popular with your users?
Yeah, that's a great question. As you might expect, we get a range of different investors depending on where they're at budget wise. But we do have like pill counters, so it's interesting. The blue pill, the entry level one, is most popular in terms of the number of them that are out there, and then in terms of the number out there, the red pill, which is the big one, is the next one, with the middle one being just following that. So it's pretty interesting to see how some folks have jumped in and are just kind of managing their first level investment, and then others went straight for the big one. I think it's kind of interesting to see people's approach. Some investors I've seen in the chats mention that they've got one of each and a split between this and that. So do see a lot of variety.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that. We've seen a similar sort of pattern with ours as well, where it's the middle tier that seems to be the one people don't go for. They either want the big one that's producing the most, or they just want to sort of dip their toes in and get the sort of cheapest one and see how it goes. And it's always sort of the one that's in the middle one that has the least or the smallest user base. So it's interesting that there's a bit of a parallel there between the two projects.
It is interesting, yeah, and I find it funny because in many other real world applications, a lot of people sort of push the medium, right? It's like you go to Starbucks or something, get a grande, and just, that's kind of the
Yeah,
standard, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I definitely see kind of opposite here.
Yeah, that's it. So a few questions here around your stability manager or your price manager. It's not currently in use by any other projects, is it? Or did you say there is another project that's using it right now?
Yeah, so Avion is currently using it, and they I don't remember when they launched at this point, but they're currently using the protocol, and then we've got a couple that are not announced that have been uh, kind of working with the team about getting it implemented or negotiating details on that. Um, and so that is the only one that's currently public that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Is the
cool.
Avion Finance.
Yeah, that's cool. More to come. Watch this space. Um, okay, let's have a
Yeah.
look. So I've read everything about you guys, and I must commend what you people are building. It's one of a kind. My question: noobs complain about crypto's complexity. How are you guys going to make your protocol easily understandable to a noob?
Mm. And I will in full transparency say ours is not like the most simple one out there because it was intentionally built with this managed to earn variables in it, right? And so the interface itself is very fun and simple, thankfully. So it's not there's not like all these different pools and farming and this and that you have to know or understand, which is really nice. But you definitely need to either have grown up with a Tamagotchi, or
Yeah.
need to have kind of understand at least the gameplay. So it's probably not the simplest one out there. Where certainly if you can buy a node and it just spits out rewards, I don't think it gets any simpler than that in a sense, right? But this one definitely has a little bit of that additional maybe complexity or at least factors that you need to think about when playing. We do try to keep it super simple in terms of the actual getting into it, right? You can go to the website, the DEX is right there, so you can just swap right into it. You don't have to go to another exchange and then come back.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then you can, buy everything right there in the D app. So that does simplify the actual gameplay a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely got a few moving parts to it.
Yeah. He's got another question regarding your sort of plans for sustainability, but I guess that's kind of inherent in your tokenomics, really. So do you just want to just run through why your unique tokenomics are going to sort of speak to the sustainability and the longevity of the project in general?
Absolutely. Yeah, and so we did a lot of. This was kind of one of those one of those aspects where when you dig into Frey's brain, he's very detailed and he's got just a very interesting test, and I think he's got some chemistry and some coding background, so you get a lot of interesting results. But one of the things he did is he ran the LMS system through like over 200,000 tests to see, what's going to push this thing outside of the bounds, and it passed all of them. Is the short answer. And so, in that speaks to the amount of thought and time put into the tokenomics, the range of price, the types of interactions required, and so that was like the baseline, of course, right? And then beyond that, the like I mentioned, there is a sales tax. Only when you sell, it's like 10%. That's really the only tax or fee in the system. But it does what it does there is if you notice the 250 to 275, right? That's about a $25 delta, if you will, in like the actual price range. And so with the sales tax, it makes it very challenging to manipulate that at all. So you don't have to deal with a lot of bots or anything like that that are going to mess up your plans and tokenomics. So it keeps it simple. We can have just the 10% tax, and that tax is built in and considered when they set their reward rates. And so between the tax and then the additional interactions, and those are, of course, feeding back into the liquidity manager. And as long as it has funds, it will continue to maintain that price. But then the additional element of the outside revenue, like we mentioned earlier, is the thing that will continue to just make the project, truly, as long as there's external revenue coming in, the project could go indefinitely, which is, I think, something that everybody enjoys at this point, knowing that, you really truly are creating something that creates value long term and isn't reliant purely on new investors or anything of the kind. It's just a matter of continuing to add value and bring in outside revenue.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's very much moving away from the whole sort of Ponzi-nomic structure of the sort of early node projects, and it really seems like the way it's structured is, you guys could be around for a really long time.
Absolutely.
Okay, just a couple more questions, and then I think we can start to wrap things up. We'll be going just shy of an hour. So, have you got any plans for play to earn with your token or metaverse?
Good question. So the managed to earn is definitely has that hint of play to earn, with just a little bit simplified, right, where you're just kind of managing on a very simple standpoint. At the time being, there hasn't been any announcement of metaverse aspects, but looking at the roadmap, you can see that they've left it pretty wide open in order for interpretation to say, okay, well, we've got the opportunity for new NFT capabilities. We've got some new GameFi features that will be coming out hopefully in Q4, as well as whatever the Limpid Studio means, which will hopefully in the next couple of AMAs we'll have more on that. But I think there definitely will be an expansion of the way that you can interact or have the opportunity to interact, and if not directly in the original Limpid protocol, in the things that come out of and are associated with the protocol. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for features like that, depending, and I'll tie this back to one of the earlier questions, depending on what the community is really looking for and what people would love to engage with.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have really got a lot of options available to you and what sort of direction you could go in. With the DEX and the liquidity manager, you've got play to earn options as well. You could really go in a sort of lot of different directions with it.
Definitely could, and Frey's got a lot of experience in developing some pretty unique contracts, and some experimental stuff in the lab that he was messing with. So there's definitely a lot of ideas and options there. I don't think there's any shortage of things we could do. It's probably more of a time limitation than anything, right? But
Yeah,
I think there will be some really exciting things coming out in the next few months.
Yeah, watch this space. Okay, last question then. Nice, easy one to finish. Have you got any plans to go multi-chain, or are you going to stick with BSC?
Great question. Yeah, so I think I'll answer that in two parts. The liquidity manager system will definitely be used in multi-chain. I can already tell you that. But in terms of the token, I believe we are going to keep it on BSC, especially tying back to that gas fee challenge. For example, obviously this would not work on Ethereum. Some of the others that I think may potentially work, would be some of the other very low gas kind of chains. But for the foreseeable future, I believe that the LMP token will be just on BSC.
Okay, cool. All right, I think that just about wraps things up. So yeah, it was really great to have you on. It was really interesting hearing about your project. It sounds really innovative and exciting, and it's going to be interesting to see where you guys are headed. For everyone listening, looking for the $50, I'll get Rocket to pick from the people who posted questions, and we'll announce the winner on our channel tomorrow. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap things up?
No, just I really appreciate everybody's time coming in to listen and all the great questions. Truly appreciate it. If you guys, jump over into the Discord and have any additional questions, we'll be happy to answer them there, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I will actually mention that I'm going to be running a couple of giveaways over the next week or two from my personal Twitter account, just for fun and a bit of give back. So if you guys want to follow me there, you'll hear some more there. So if you're not the question winner from today, don't worry. There's more chances to just get a few extra tokens in your wallet.
There you go. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks much. You guys have a great one.
Have a good one. Bye.